Well, Lightfall is here after much build-up and a great season of the Seraph, and today I want to dive into my first impressions of the latest yearly expansion from Bungie inside Destiny 2. I'm going to get into the gameplay, the story, Strand, our new location on Neomuna, plus all the quality of life changes like mods, commendations and loadouts as well. Well, first of all, I want to dive into the gameplay, so if you are a seasoned Destiny 2 veteran, well, all of this is going to be familiar indeed. So Strand, our new Darkness subclass, offers up the most dramatic changes to gameplay through the grapple mechanic, which, to be honest, has been implemented pretty well. We did get a taste of Strand via the campaign, but it doesn't really open up until after the story when we get access to our aspects and our fragments. Basically, these are ways to modify our Strand setup to get the most out of the subclass. Well, so far with Lightfall, I've been maining a Warlock, and this has been working really well for me. I was thinking about going into the expansion as a Hunter, but for some reason I always default back to a Warlock. I'm glad I did, given the emergence of Strand and the combination with Necrotic Grips. That build has come out since the campaign wrapped up. It's some of the most fun I've had playing as a Warlock in Destiny 2. Now, I was late to Stasis in Beyond Light, having played through that campaign as a Titan. Getting Stasis was an absolute slog. It was really slow, it was really frustrating, it took months to open up and get done. I did some of that with my Titan when it first released, but I didn't really open up everything until sometime in the Witch Queen expansion, and that was about 1 year later. Thankfully, Bungie has taken on the feedback and made opening up Strand much easier and much quicker too. Now, some enemies have been reworked with the Shadow Cabal, however it is not a huge change. And it's funny, because we've been battling against pretty much the same enemies since 2014. Although the Shadow Cabal have minor updates, it's mainly just cosmetic. We didn't really get a major new variant introduced like we did with the Vet in Beyond Light. Well, Tormentors are a great addition to the game, so they are like minions of the darkness, mini Rolk-like bosses. They grab you and give you a void pulse attack and drain you of your light and your health. The sound design with the Tormentors is very good. The audio getting all distorted when you get attacked, it reminded me some of the great sound design work done in Beyond Light. Well, that is it for the gameplay. Next up, let's have a look at the story and the campaign. So, warning, there are spoilers ahead in this bit. So next up, the story. First of all, I do think there are some positives. So the campaign itself was pretty well paced. The cinematics were good. The final boss fight against Callus was also a good demonstration of Strand, but to be honest, that is about it for the positives. Otherwise, the campaign was underwhelming at best and a confusing mess, if you want to be brutally honest. This campaign felt like filler, and it felt like there'd been some pivot within Bungie at some point, and those cracks weren't really covered by the campaign. The best moments of the campaign with Callus and the Witness, however, we spent far too much time with Strand. Now, Strand, as a Darkness subclass, is pretty good fun, but it's a gameplay mechanic or a feature. I don't really want to know too much about the lore of Strand. Now, one cutscene would have been enough, but we got loads and loads of missions. There's been a whole bunch of negative feedback about the Cloud Striders. So Rohan, he was a great character, but he died fairly early on. We didn't get to spend enough time with him to be fully invested in his character to really care as to whether he died or not. Then you got Nimbus, the younger Cloud Strider, and their tone felt all wrong, and the fist bump attempt with Keitel just wasn't very good at all. So, there's a great deal of story to tell with the Cloud Striders, but it's all post-campaign rather than in the campaign itself, which is a shame. Once you get to the post-campaign, you learn much more about the Cloud Striders, their history, their celebrated heroes and champions, and that is really good storytelling. And shout out to that Neomuna newsreader as well, they are very cool indeed. The Lightfall campaign did not live up to the Witch Queen or even Beyond Light, and it sits somewhere around the Shadowkeep campaign sort of levels for me. The mystery of the Veil wasn't fun. It calls back to storytelling from Destiny 1 days, and we know that it went through a major pivot not too long before the release of the game, and you can just feel the same kind of vibes here. Nowhere more obvious than the split cutscene with the Witness interacting with the Traveller. So while that cutscene was in itself very good, the whole Veil element of the story just wasn't done very well. It felt confusing and it lacked clarity. And Lightfall should be setting up a great conclusion, but it posed more questions than answers. And when we're supposed to be entering the final phase of the Light vs. Darkness saga. Well, next up we've got the environments, and Neptune is our new destination for Lightfall, and while it looks beautiful, it feels very shiny and new, but it also feels empty. This is explained away by the story, with the inhabitants of Neomuna uploading themselves to the Cloud Ark to exist in a digital space. And the Cloud Ark is essentially some kind of Neptune-based internet where all the inhabitants can upload themselves to live forever. Neomuna looks great, and it is a stark contrast to other environments that we've had in Destiny 2. Much of it reminded me of some of the best locations on Titan, and it's the polar opposite to Savathûn's throne world. It's a shiny city with a beach made of diamond sand. Although the destructible environments are a great addition to the game, and introduced during the campaign, we have to smash down a door, much to my surprise. And while it looked great, it's empty and doesn't feel like a city under attack. Calus' ship, meanwhile, is an impressive structure. I do love the aesthetics of those Darkness ships, but overall, it doesn't really compete with Savathûn's throne world for me, or even the EDZ. Next up, we've got the loot, so this is definitely another positive. So as always, the loot is excellent. I've got my hands on the post-campaign exotics, including the heavy stasis glaive, the strand sidearm, and also the void machine gun. So the stasis glaive, I think that's Winterbite. That's probably my favourite of the bunch so far. I also like the fact we've got strand legendary weapons in the game at the launch of the new damage type, whereas I think we had to wait quite a long time for stasis legendary weapons. I think it was the final season of the expansion before we got those legendaries. So overall, the loot is definitely a big thumbs up from me. Next up, we've got the quality of life improvements. So Bungie have introduced loadouts and commendations into the game, and they definitely are a good feature. So loadouts, they've been possible via DIM for many years, that's Destiny Item Manager, and arguably they have been done better. So it is a good and useful feature to be able to save a loadout, especially in the game, and quickly and easily swap depending on your activity. My only issue with it at the moment is you can't rename a loadout, which does seem a little bit odd. I'd like to be able to describe what that loadout is for. Commendations are decent, but it feels like you can only give positive feedback, which feels a little bit pointless after a few times. You know, I do like handing out the commendations, and of course I like getting them as well, but there are only a few limited options right now, and hopefully Bungie can flesh out this feature in the future. Finally then, we've got the mod system. So this one has had a massive overhaul, and at the minute feels like a little bit of a miss. So it looks like Bungie has taken this opportunity to reduce the amount of power output that we have via abilities. They've taken away some of the major features, but looking positively at the mod system, I do think it's going to take some time to get used to, and the new builds will emerge over time. I've already put together a great strand Warlock Necrotic Grip build. You can find that over there on my YouTube channel. And other light subclass builds are coming very, very soon. So first impressions of the mod system haven't been great, but I do think it's something we're going to have to bed in over time. Well, that is it for my first impressions of Lightfall. Let me know down in the comments, or you can tag me on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast.
Once thought to be a force known as the darkness,
while I do think much of the
the witness
campaign was a
revealed
massive
itself to be an
disappointment,
entity that
actually
instead
the rest of
wields
the
the
game
darkness
comes
against
together
us.
quite well
It
after the
spoke
main
through our
campaign,
ghosts
all
and
the
offered us
post-campaign
salvation
stuff, the
if
lore
we
with the
submitted to
Chaos
it.
Riders, that is really, really good.
We
I'm getting much
refused.
more used to the mod system now.
Though we
Quality
do
of
not
life
know its true
improvements are very
intentions,
good. Also,
we can only
Season of
assume it
Defiance,
seeks
that is the
to
first
finish what
season
it started
that's
during
launched
our
alongside
collapse.
Lightfall. That is pretty good.
Our
The story
resolve
there
was
is quite
tested when
engaging. Bringing
Savathûn,
Crow and
our
Amanda
goddess
Holiday
of
back
trickery,
into the fold,
disguised herself as one of our foremost guardians,
we haven't seen for a few seasons.
Osiris. She gained
Hopefully,
access
we
to
can
our
put that
secrets,
campaign behind us
but in
and
turn,
get into the
Osiris
season
gained
story
access to
for
hers.
2023 as we
Savathûn had
build up to
rebelled
the
against the
Prime
witness and hid what might be
As
our
always,
only
thank
chance
you
of
so much for
defeating
watching or
it
listening.
away on the
Don't
planet
forget to
Neptune.
subscribe, and I'll see you real soon.
Now,